Okay, welcome to Planet Geography, and today we're dealing with the types of transportation. Now, just before we get into this, there are 4 types of transportation, and they're the same in rivers and in our coasts. Okay, so what is transportation? Transportation is the movement of sediment from one location to another location. Okay, it's kind of the process that comes in between erosion and deposition. So, what are the 4 types of transportation? So, the first one is traction, then we have saltation, then we have suspension, and then we have solution. What I'll do now is I'll jump into a separate section for each of those videos, and so you can better understand and have a definition of what they actually are. Okay, so let's go. Okay, so let's deal with traction. So traction relates to the biggest, the largest pieces of sediment, so kind of boulders. And what's happened, because they are so large, the energy moving through our rivers or our coastlines, it doesn't have enough energy to lift them. It only has enough energy to really roll them. So what happens is our boulders are rolled along the seabed or the riverbed, and they are moved from A to B. So you can see that this is a type of transportation because transportation is moving sediment from A to B. Now this sediment is large boulders and they are rolled. Okay, so next we're going to jump into saltation. Okay, the second type of transportation is saltation. Now these relate to smaller pieces of sediment, not small but smaller. So before with traction we had boulders, now we have pebbles. So pebbles, as I hope you know, are a little bit smaller than boulders. Okay, and as a result, the energy moving through our rivers or coastlines has the ability to lift up our pebbles, our sediment, but then there'll be moments where it loses that energy. The wave passes, the river loses some velocity, and then it drops it again. So really it is being bounced, and that's the key word here. It's being bounced along our coastline. And again, as you can see, it's being moved from A to B, and it's sediment. So again, it's transportation. Okay, that's saltation. Now let's look at suspension. The third of our 4 types of transportation is suspension. Now, if you understand what this tier 2 word suspension means, the rest should be kind of easy. Suspension means to kind of be held aloft, kind of in the air. And so what's happening is the sediment, in this case it's actually sand, is suspended between the surface of the river or the surface of the ocean and the floor, the bed. So what's happening here is not being bounced like saltration, it's just being carried along. And the reason it can do that is this sediment is very, very small. You know, a piece of sand is much smaller than a pebble. Okay, you can throw a pebble, you can't really throw sand, it's just too small to do so. And because it's so light, it is simply carried along in suspension along the river. And again, as I keep saying, when sediment is moved from A to B, it's transportation. Okay, so this is the third type. We're going to look at the final type, which is solution. Okay, the last type is solution. And this keyword is dissolved. The sediment now has got so tiny that it is actually dissolved in the water. Okay, it's created a solution. You should know this from chemistry. Okay, so just like sugar dissolves in a cup of tea, the sediment is so fine and so small that it has dissolved into the solution. That's what gives our rivers, and sometimes our coastlines as well, this brown color. Okay, it's not disgusting, it's not dirty. All you're looking at is dissolved sediment inside the river. Okay, that is the 4th type. What we'll do now is we'll look at a definition, sorry, not a definition, an exam question of the that relates to this learning. An exam question from the Geography A, Paper 1, Physical Environment from Edexcel. It's a nice easy 2-marker today. We always bug the question as always. So we box the command word, which is explain. One reason why sediment size usually decreases downstream, so sediment size is important here, decreases and downstream. So we're thinking sediment, so pieces of eroded material, their size, how big or small they are, decreases. So why are they going from big pieces to small pieces as we move from the source to the mouth of the river? We then glance at the marks and that tells us our structure. Here is the mark scheme. So you can pause it and have a read of what would and would not get you marks. Now, I know this video is about transportation, but transportation and erosion are so similar. You know, you often find questions where they do link to each other. Let's have a look at the structure that I would pursue. So one blank is because. Mark for your point and a mark for your development. The blank is going to be reason. Where possible, use words from the question. Okay? So let's look at the example I think would get a 100%. One reason is sediment is dissolved as it moves downstream. So I've dropped in that keyword of dissolved and downstream, so you can see that I'm using words from the question. So sediment as well from the question. Because of the process of solution. That's my development. So really I'm getting marks for sediment, dissolve and solution. It's actually quite a tricky question here, but if you understand about erosion and you understand about transportation, you can try and fashion something for using your Tier 3 geography specific language. Okay, I hope that helps. It gets 100%. If you want any more support or help with explain questions, check out my video on exam technique masterclass for explain questions. They are the most common form and most important type of exam question. Like and subscribe for future videos as we get closer to the exams, and good luck in your GCSEs.